Hello, my rubber hearts. We have mentioned this number in almost every episode of this series, in dispersion, in the power curve, ram behavior, in heat generation, the fill factor. We kept leaning on it without ever sitting down and explaining it properly. Today we will fix that. And we build it up from the very beginning, piece by piece, until it actually makes sense. Because fill factor is one of the first decisions you make when setting up a mixing cycle and one of the most consequential. Every internal mixer has a mixing chamber, the cavity where the two rotors turn and the compound is worked. That chamber has a volume, a fixed physical size measured in liters. A small lab mixer might have a chamber of a fraction of a liter. A large production mixer might have a few hundred liters. The chamber volume is published by the manufacturer on the machine's technical data sheet. But read that figure carefully, because the manufacturers are precise about what it means. On the data sheet, the chamber volume is defined as the effective free volume of the mixing chamber with the ram closed. That wording matters. It is not the raw geometric size of an empty box. It already accounts for the space the rotors occupied, and it's measured with the ram in its closed position, the actual configuration the chamber is in while mixing. So the number the manufacturer gives you is already the real, free working space inside the machine. This is the space you have to work with. It does not change, it is a property of the machine. So your first instinct might be simple. Fill the chamber, mix the compound, done. But it's not that simple. And the reasons why are the whole point of this episode. When you build a compound, you build it by a recipe. And recipes are specified by weight. So many parts of polymer, so many parts of filler, parts of oil, and so on. You weigh out ingredients. You think in kilograms. But the chamber is a volume. It holds a certain number of liters, not a certain number of kilograms. And weight and volume are not the same thing. Two compounds can weigh exactly the same and take up completely different amounts of space because they have different densities. A heavily filled compound, packed with dense materials like carbon black or even more so silica or mineral fillers, weighs a lot for the space it occupies. A lightly filled, oil-extended compound weighs much less for the same space. So if you simply said load 50 kilograms, you would be loading very different amounts of chamber space depending on which compound it is. Sometimes the chamber would be too full, sometimes too empty. The kilograms tell you nothing about how full the machine actually is. This is the gap fill factor exists to bridge between the mass-based world of the recipe and the volume-based world of the machine. Now the second subtlety. Even though the manufacturer's chamber volume already accounts for the rotors, you still don't fill it completely. The compound needs somewhere to go. It needs room to circulate, to be picked up by the flights, to be carried over the tip gap, to fold and move. A chamber packed completely solid with material has no room for any of that motion. And motion is what mixing is. So you deliberately fill only a fraction of the free volume. The fill factor expresses what fraction of the chamber's free volume is actually occupied by the compound. A fill factor of 0.5 means the machine is filled to 50%. A fill factor of 0.75 means 75% filled. And critically, you never fill to 100%. A completely full chamber cannot mix because the compound has nowhere to circulate. There is deliberately empty space by design so the material can move. Now we can connect the two worlds through density. You know the free volume of the mixer from the data sheet. You know the fill factor you want to hit. Multiply them and you know the volume of compound you need to load. But you cannot weigh out the volume. You weigh out the mass. So you need one more piece of information to convert that target volume into a batch weight, the density of the compound. In the rubber world, this is usually called specific gravity. Density is mass per unit volume. Once you know the density of your specific compound, you convert the volume you want to fill into the weight you need to weigh out. Volume times density gives you mass. That batch weight is what the operator actually puts in on the scale. And here is the one piece that does not come from the mixer's datasheet. The chamber volume comes from the manufacturer. The fill factor is a process choice, but the density comes from your compound. You either calculate it from the formulation as the weight average of all of the ingredients' densities, or you measure it on a finished sample. The machine can tell you this. It depends entirely on what you are mixing. Now let me make this concrete with a real production mixer so you can see the whole chain in actual numbers. Take a large tangential Banbury-type mixer, a real model with a published spec sheet. Each datasheet lists 3 numbers in sequence, and those 3 numbers are the fill factor calculation laid out for you. First, the chamber volume of 720 liters. That's the effective free volume with the ram closed straight from the manufacturer. Second, the useful volume at a fill factor of 0.75. It's 540 liters. That is simply 720 multiplied by 0.75. 3/4 of the free volume. Third, the batch weight at a specific gravity of 1.15 kilograms per liter is 621 kilograms. That's 540 liters multiplied by a density of 1.15. The volume converted into a weight you can actually scale out. So the full chain reads 720 liters of chamber times 0.75 fill factor gives 540 liters of compound times the density of 1.15 gives a 621 kilogram batch. And notice what the manufacturer did there. They could not state a batch weight without first stating an assumed density. They wrote it explicitly. Batch weight at a specific gravity of 1.15. That little phrase is the whole lesson. Change the compound, change the density, and that 621 kilograms changes with it. To see how much it matters, a denser compound, say a heavy mineral filled one at a specific gravity of 1.8 instead of 1.15, would need a completely different batch weight to hit the very same 0.75 fill factor. Same machine, same fill factor, same 540 liters of space to fill, but because the material is denser, the weight that fills that space is much higher. That's exactly why a batch weight calculated for one compound is simply wrong for another. The fill factor stays the same, the kilograms do not. Now that we know what fill factor is, let's look at what happens at the extremes, because this is where it stops being arithmetic and starts being process behavior. When the machine is underfilled, fill factor too low, there isn't enough compound to build up the pressure the process needs. We saw this back in the episode on the hidden zone. With too little material, the compound takes the easy path. It slips around the rotor ends instead of being forced over the tip gap and through the high shear zones. The consequence is specific and important. At low fill factors, the mixing is mostly distributive. The ingredients get spread around, but the intensive dispersive work, the breaking of agglomerates, is weak because the material isn't being driven through the high stress regions with enough force. So an underfilled mixer doesn't disperse well. You're wasting chamber capacity and getting poor dispersion in return. The opposite extreme has its own problems. As you increase the fill factor, dispersion improves up to a point because more and more material is being forced through the high shear zones rather than escaping around them. The process shifts from distributive toward dispersive, and that is good, but you cannot keep increasing it indefinitely. Push the fill factor too high, and dead spots begin to appear. Regions where material stagnates and stops participating properly in the mixing. The compound is too crowded to circulate freely. Some of it gets trapped, underworked, in zones the flow no longer reaches well. There's also a practical mechanical sign of an overfilled machine. When the chamber is too full, the ram cannot settle into its proper working position. There's simply too much material beneath it, and it sits high, unable to find its place. We saw this in the episode on the cycle. A ram that never reaches its lowest position is telling you the patch is too big. So overfilling doesn't just fail to help. Past the optimum, it actively hurts dispersion and disrupts the mechanics of the cycle. Put the two extremes together and the conclusion is clear. There is an optimum fill factor. Not as much as possible, not more is better. An optimum. High enough that material is driven through the high shear zones for good dispersion, but not so high that dead spots form and circulation chokes. So where do you start? The industry standard is 0.75, a 75% fill factor. That's the recommended starting point for normal batches of normal compounds, and it's why you'd see 0.75 printed right on the manufacturer's datasheet as the nominal figure. It's the default the machines are specified around. But, and this is the important part, 0.75 is the starting point, not a final answer. You take that 75%, calculate your batch weight from it, and run it in production. Then you watch how it behaves. If everything runs well, you are done. But if you see issues, poor dispersion, temperature problems, the RAM not setting, dead material, you adjust from there. You either increase the fill factor or decrease it depending on what the process is telling you, until you land on the value that works for that specific compound. One more thing to keep in mind. The optimum fill factor doesn't sit in isolation. Both higher rotor speed and higher fill factor push the drop temperature up. So fill factor is always balanced against rotor speed and the temperature ceiling of the compound. In fact, one elegant optimization move is to lower the fill factor slightly while raising the rotor speed, improving dispersion quality while holding throughput and drop temperature steady. Fill factor and speed are dance partners. So, fill factor, properly understood, is the bridge between a recipe written in kilograms and a machine measured in liters. The chamber has a fixed free volume published by the manufacturer as the effective volume with the RAM closed. Fill factor is the fraction of that free volume the compound occupies, and it's never 100%. To turn a target fill factor into a batch weight, you need the density of the compound, which comes from your formulation, not the machine, and is unique to each compound. So a batch weight is only ever correct for the compound it was made for. The industry standard starting point is 0.75. You run it, you watch it, and you adjust up or down from there. It's one number, but getting it right is one of the first and most important things a compounder does. In the next episode, we turn to something that has been implicit in everything we've said about the cycle, the question of how long. Next time, we will discuss mixing time optimization. Mix too little, and the compound never reaches the quality it should. Mix too much, and you don't just waste time and energy. You can start working against yourself. We will look at why more mixing is not always better and how to find the point where a batch is genuinely done. Until then, stay elastic and stay curious.